Have you ever stopped and wondered what the real rules of global power are? You know, not the stuff we see on the news, but what's happening behind the curtain. Well, in this explainer, we're going to see the world through the eyes of a former CIA spy to really understand the unwritten rules of the game.
Okay, let's just pause on that for a second. That is a pretty shocking statement, right? It comes straight from a former agent, and honestly, it's the key that unlocks this entire unseen game of nations. I mean, why would a superpower actively work against peace? Let's dig in.
And that really brings us to the central question here. If we forget all the idealistic speeches and the public handshakes for a minute, what are the raw, unfiltered strategies that keep superpowers in control?
To get our heads around this, first we just have to accept one thing. International relations is a game, but it's a game where the most important rules are never written down, and the main goal is just, well, to keep the people on top on top.
This right here is the core concept that supposedly drives all of U.S. foreign policy: American primacy. The agent says this is the first thing you're taught at the CIA. Every decision gets filtered through one simple question: does this action keep America on top? It's not about what's fair for the world, it's about what's good for America. The agent uses this fantastic metaphor. Think of it like this. Every country is on a beach, building a hill of sand. If you want to have the biggest hill, you can't just find new sand. You have to take it from somebody else's hill. And that right there perfectly captures the mindset. Power is seen as a finite thing. So, for a superpower, it's not about cooperation, it's about domination. So, if the goal is to have the biggest pile of sand, how do you do it? What's the playbook? Let's take a look at the core tactics. According to the agent, the whole strategy pretty much boils down to these three things. First, control the money. Second, shape the story behind the scenes. And third, and this one is crucial, make sure your rivals are so busy fighting each other that they can never team up to challenge you.
And what's really interesting is how this playbook gets adapted. You see quiet dependency through diplomacy and aid, making countries feel like partners. Or you get obvious dependency through tariffs and threats, making it crystal clear who's in charge. The methods are different, but the mission is always the same. Make sure other nations need you way more than you need them.
Okay, I know this all sounds a bit theoretical, so let's look at a real-world case study the agent gives to see how these tactics actually play out on the ground. The long-running conflict between India and Pakistan.
When the agent is directly confronted with this idea that the U.S. is actually fanning the flames of this conflict, his response is incredibly blunt. He just says, the whole world does that. In other words, this isn't some secret American plot. It's just standard operating procedure for any global power that wants to stay influential. And here's how it's done. You leak just enough intelligence to each side to keep them paranoid. You use bots and media to amplify people's existing fears. And what's the result? Both countries spend billions on your weapons and stay focused on their neighbor, instead of focusing on becoming a global competitor. The big takeaway here is that for a superpower, regional instability isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. But here's the twist. That old game, the one with a single superpower calling all the shots, it's being completely disrupted. There's a new challenger in the ring, and the rules are changing fast.
We're moving from a unipolar world, basically one sheriff in town, led by the US, to a bipolar one. And the huge difference, as you can see here, is the approach. The West always demanded that you align with their ideology. You know, you have to be a democracy. The rising Eastern Bloc, led by China, they're way more pragmatic. They really don't care how you run your country. They just want to do business.
And you can see this shift happening right now. It's not a future thing. The economic dominance of the G7 Western powers is on a downward trend, while the purchasing power of the BRICS nations, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and their partners, is climbing. It's a real rebalancing of the world's economic power.
Now, this new bloc isn't just one big thing. The agent sees China as the strategic head, the one with the money and the long-term plan to challenge the US. But India, with its massive population, its manufacturing power, and its incredible talent, he says India is going to be the heart that pumps life into the whole system.
So all of this brings us to the future. And a bipolar world, a world with two massive powers competing for the top spot, is just inherently less stable. The stakes of this game are getting dangerously high. And this is maybe the single most chilling prediction from the agent. In this new, more volatile world, he thinks the old rules that prevent a nuclear war might not hold up. He believes the use of nuclear weapons isn't a question of if anymore, but when.
But he's not talking about a huge, city-destroying bomb from a movie. The real threat, he argues, is a small, tactical nuke, something that could be launched by a non-state group like terrorist or cartel. It would cause unbelievable damage and chaos, but because there's no country to blame, there's no one to retaliate against. It creates maximum instability.
And so, that leaves us with this one final, really unsettling thought. As the old order crumbles and these new, more pragmatic and maybe more ruthless powers rise, the very idea of global security is changing. In this new game, with new rules, are the old ways of staying safe even relevant anymore?